You know, you guys, as if the Golden State Warriors weren't already making enough noise so far into these 2022 playoffs, they have seemingly one-upped themselves once again, because whether you saw the breaking news circulating all throughout Twitter that it was going to happen, or you might have not even seen it until it actually occurred live. But after tons of speculation if they were ever going to do so, yes, the Warriors finally rolled out with their Death Lineup 3.0 in the starting rotation. And with Golden State finally pulling the trigger in doing so, I personally feel like there is so much more to take away from this team regarding their future than most people actually realized. And what I mean by this, well, it's probably not what you're anticipating, so let's just get into it. One sec though, guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to like the video if you do enjoy, subscribe, and turn on those notifications to never miss another NBA video. Love you guys. And for those of you that haven't yet, believe me, now is the perfect time to do so, because according to my numbers, over 95% of you guys coming back to watch the content haven't even subscribed yet. So for any of you that do, thank you so much. But anyway, to get back on topic with the quote-unquote Death Lineup 3.0 finally being thrown into the Warriors starting rotation, while it was some pretty big news and they even started off rather hot, scoring 21 points in the first 5 minutes out there on the court together, this lineup, while their expectations were set ridiculously high from what they've done in the past, seemingly underperformed, but again, this is set to the expectations of what we had seen prior. But even with not living up to the hype in the closeout game of what this rotation had been doing in the series beforehand, would you believe me if I told you that what the Warriors saw last night was possibly the best outcome they actually could have received? And if you don't believe me on this, well, I'll just tell you why. Because so far into this season, I think it's safe to say that the Golden State Warriors have made a living off of confusing their opponents to the greatest degree possible. And this has been both continually and successfully done by not just solely relying on their cream of the crop players, which is otherwise known as the Death Lineup, but also by being able to swap in one of their extremely dominant bench pieces at any given time to get the job done. Because again, it seems pretty fair to say that even when the stars of this team are not performing to the best of their abilities, there always seems to be that next up mentality that keeps the Warriors in the hunt. And for the best example we've seen of this so far, let's take a look at the closeout game of the opening series against the Denver Nuggets. We actually saw the three-headed monster of a scoring load that coasted this team through the first 3 games of this series not really have a good game all around. And I know that Curry did put up 30 points, but aside from the run he went on in the fourth quarter, this team for most of the game was playing below expectations. But the main point being taken away from this is that in case you missed the game, they still won with this below average productivity out of their 3 main scorers. And it also just feeds more into the point that when you have a weapon arsenal consisting of this with every opponent you match up with, that it's been proven that even when they only have 1 average performance out of their top 3 guys, that they'll still be fighting for a victory in the end. And again, it feeds into the point of why this is so easy, being this team has so many pieces that can be so easily interswapped. Like again, for a quick example of Game 5, which we've really been seeing all season, with Jordan Poole actually having a pretty off night, the Warriors finished the game with Gary Payton in the rotation for the last 5 to 6 minutes. And it's pretty safe to say, as we stated, that any of these bench pieces can step up to the plate when they are needed to do so. And even another situation that's been seen previously would be something like Jonathan Kuminga, Otto Porter Jr., or even Andre Iguodala being swapped in for Wiggs at the end. And there's so many more that I could throw at you guys, but you get the idea that this team has very little pieces that cannot be played in the big moment of a game. And to be honest, I think that's one of the biggest surprises that people get when they watch this team. Like aside from Steph, Klay, and Dre, most of the players on this team don't have any history being the top guy on their team, or even any playoff experience for that matter as well. Which, I mean, I could be proven wrong with all of the things I've said about these guys as we get further down the line into this postseason, but from everything we've seen so far, I think we've made a pretty accurate assessment. But also, with the Death Lineup, and if the Warriors continue to run out with this rotation, which will depend on the matchups with almost every team they go up against, one of, if not the absolute biggest concern that has been brought up with this team time and time again, both through the regular season and through the playoffs so far, has been the disadvantage of size. Because, I think most of you that know basketball and watch the NBA can make the assessment yourself that this is one of the smallest rotations that any team remaining has to offer. And yes, while I think everyone can very very clearly see the cause for concern, but it seems to also show how many people somehow still discredit the abilities of Draymond Green. And I know you guys have probably heard this before, but Draymond Green isn't just one of the most versatile defenders in the NBA today, but he is one of the most versatile defenders that you will ever see in the history of the league. And I know with saying this that some people are going to pull up Nikola Jokic's averages from this series and try to tell me how Draymond couldn't do anything, but I don't care what anyone says, Jokic was putting up 30 plus on anybody they faced in the first round, and there's a reason he's going to be the back-to-back MVP. But nonetheless, when we take a look forward at some of the potential matchups that Golden State might have, we're looking at situations where Draymond Green would be the 5 in the death lineup, or if they wanted to switch back to their old rotation, you'd have Kevon Looney acting as the 5, with say the 4 most likely opponents they'll go up against in the Western Conference portion of the playoffs. You have guys like Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson Jr. in Memphis, Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota, Dwight Powell in Dallas, and then of course you have DeAndre Ayton and JaVale McGee in Phoenix. And while we are currently taking a look at some of the bigs these teams possess, I think that I can pretty confidently say that the biggest concern of being outbigged is not going to be the overlying issue with any of these matchups. Now clearly this is not the only thing to consider with every matchup you have. There will be different unique situations with every team, but all in all, when we're looking at the overall scheme of things, I just tend to think that this issue seems to be a bit overplayed when people are talking about the Warriors. Now with this, it could be more of an issue to address with some Eastern Conference opponents, but as I'm thinking, and I'm sure the Warriors are thinking as well, that is a situation of we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But in the end, again, with the interesting outcome we saw with the death lineup finally getting a look in the starting 5, there was still plenty to take out of this performance that only feeds into the Warriors championship hopes. But you guys, that's enough out of me, and now we are into my favorite part of every single video, which of course is hearing what you guys have to say. So please let me know in the comments, do you think the Warriors should run with the death lineup in the starting rotation going forward, or is it just something that they should keep in their back pocket that they can throw at teams from time to time? But also, I want to know who you guys think is the biggest threat to the Warriors championship hopes. And you guys, again, if you haven't yet, don't forget to go down below and leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and of course subscribe while you're down there. Seriously you guys, with the playoffs here, we are coming out with brand new content almost every single day, so just believe me when I say it, you do not want to miss out. But also, I just wanted to say thank you so much to each and every one of you for watching. I appreciate all of you guys more than anything, you all know this, and I will see you guys in the next video.